Alright, hello everyone. In this video we're going to cover texturing without projection texturing, just directly texturing in Photoshop, is aside from modeling on texturing on the model in Photoshop. So this is where we left off. Here is what it looks like in the OBJ in Photoshop. It gives you a pretty decent preview, but it really doesn't give justice to what it would look like in Maya. So you can go ahead and take a look here. I've got my texture on my character here applied, and now we're going to go into just texturing in Photoshop without directly projecting images directly onto the mesh. Excuse me. So here on my diffuse map, I am going to start and apply some texturing techniques in here. So with my one of the things you can always do is always start with a new layer, and you can begin just to sort of paint in, you know, textures on your, just covering the UVs. That's one way to do it. Another way is to use direct photo reference. So I don't want your image to just be flat plain colors. I want you to add some type of depth and texture to it. So photo references are super helpful for that. That being said, I'm going to start with probably the most difficult part again, and I'm going to see if I can get any better reference in here. I'm going to paste that in and resize and rotate, and then change the opacity and then zoom in again. And I'm going to see if I can get a somewhat decent of cancel. A better visual reference on my front texture here. Just to see, I may need to somewhat distort it to match a little bit, and maybe something like that. Another thing, maybe I bring this down and I can hopefully get some type of decent image reference on here. And actually, I'm going to turn this down even lower, 25. Okay. Something like that. I'll press enter. Oop. And then at this point, a layer mask. Okay, this might help with some of that look I'm going for. The mouth is actually slightly off, so I'm going to keep this at 50% for now. This is definitely going to be like one of the harder parts, is the face. That's why I'm starting with this point. And running an edit, transform, and warp, I may be able to get a little bit better match on the lips. So I'm going to try that, and the only way to, it's kind of like a, save this out as a TGA, diffuse map, save, yes, okay, is to constantly just keep checking your reference. And I'm pleased with that. That's a great start to get the face where I would like it to start to look like. And I even have some of that hair detail in here. I still need to fill in this portion of the face, and this one. If you have like a 3/4 image of your face, that's a great spot to sort of try to project on there. But let's go ahead and move forward and get more into some of these materials, such as the shoes, and we'll get into the skin color on the arms here in a moment. Going back into Photoshop, I am going to now begin some of these other parts here. So the bottom of the shoe, I'm going to open and I'm going to copy, Control A, Control C, and then this will be face layout. I like to keep these named, and then you can even group these. So I'm going to just highlight all those. I just clicked one and shift selected the one at the bottom, and I can call this face. That's fine. Face folder, face group, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to create a new layer and paste this down, and then scale down and rotate, and then using that same warp tool, I'm going to go in a little bit more detail here on how it works. I'm going to scale it to be just about the size I need it to be. It's a little big, but that's okay. And what I'm going to do with this shoe is I'm going to do edit, transform, and warp. And also it helps if this is lower so I can see my distortion, or see my UVs with the distortion. And I'm not gonna grade you on like come on, the texture maps having, you know, crazy amounts of distortion or anything like that. Just try to match it as best as you can. Something like that, and then maybe here I bring this one in and then pull this out a little bit. Maybe that'll help. And then also down here, you can always zoom in, Control plus. Too much. Bring this one in. And these can stretch from the middle also, just so you know, all the lines and everything. But as you shift one spot, the rest of it begins to sort of warp also, just to keep that in mind. Maybe here. Maybe I can get this to come in a little bit, and this one to come out a little bit. And down here, down over here, and then maybe over here. Okay, I'm gonna call that a day on that. I think that's pretty good. Just make sure it's all within the UV section. Something like that. I'll bring it up to 100. And then shoe 1, duplicate. This will be shoe 2. And I'll bring this one over here and press enter, and I'm actually going to do edit, transform, flip horizontal, and then rotate this into place. And it looks like it's actually slightly larger than I expected. Hold on. Unless I just don't have it laid over well enough, which could be the case. I just have to shift it. I'm using my arrow keys to sort of shift it into place, and my rotation might be slightly off also. Let's try that. I'll bring it back up to 100. And then I'm going to save this. Targa. Save. Yes. Yes, or OK. And then Maya. Color. Reload. And that's just to check it. And it looks like I've got the bottom of my texture on my shoe there. And it's... I might have to resize it slightly. I'm not sure yet. We'll find out here shortly. And I have some cleanup to do in here. And from this point, I'll go ahead and add some textures in here on the shoe. And I'm just going to make this like a leather shoe. I'm not going to make it my Nikes or anything like that. I'm just going to keep it simple. File, open. So I grabbed a leather material for that. I kind of was going for a color that somewhat matched that tan on the other shoe. It looks like it's just too bright, and what I'm going to do is just run a image adjustment, and maybe if I mess with the hue and saturation, I'll get more of a tan color that I'm looking for. I'll just say that's okay. Now what I'm going to do is just scale this to match the foot and press enter, and then layer mask. I'm a huge fan of these. Instead of using the eraser tool, I find this much more helpful because you can always come back and add anything that's needed. So like up here, I'm going to switch to a white. I'm going to fill that section in right there. I think I need to bring this over a pixel or two, and using my brush tool, something like that, and then I'll go 100%. Another super useful thing to do is grab your UV layout. I'm going to create a duplicate of this actually, just in case. I have it at 50%, but what I can do is I can run this as an overlay. It does adjust it slightly, or maybe even a screen. Maybe screen will help. Screen, and now I'll be able to see my UVs on top, and then I can always just adjust and turn it off, on and off, to assist with the UVs. Alright, so all I want to make sure is that this color isn't bleeding into the sleeve or the jeans here, and it doesn't look like it is, so I'm going to duplicate that layer and then just move this one into place, and I'll have to rotate it, and I'll press enter, and then I'll use that brush tool again, and I'm going to select on my masking layer and use black to hide, and something like that. And this is actually bottom shoe, because it's the bottom of the shoe. And this is bottom shoe 2. And then I have a rubber material that I'll use for that other part. Control A, Control C, let's select all and copy. And then I'm going to go back to my diffuse map and paste that in on a new layer. I'll call this one again, this one will be shoe 1 and shoe 2. And now I'm just going to lay this right over these. Maybe I can something like that. And then I'll run a layer mask, reveal all. And then simply just erase the parts that I don't need. And I'm just going to run that right over the I don't know what the start of the sole, I guess you call it. Alright, so I've got that far. I'm going to Control Shift S to save as. Save it as a TGA. Save. Yes. Okay. And in Maya, I'm going to reload. And now I've got like this boot kind of look to it, with the bottom of the shoe on there. And I will have probably more than likely a seam on the back heel, but it's not very noticeable at all with this texture, so that's really cool. But it is like right about here where that seam is. So there's the shoe part. And then to finish off the rest of the character, I have the in Photoshop. I'm going to go to Gene Seam, and I'm going to copy that and go back to my diffuse map. I'm going to turn on my UV really quickly and then paste this in. Now it's definitely pretty large, and it doesn't match the color very well either, but I'll get to that in a second. And basically I can start to create some kind of jean seam if I wanted to make them look more like jeans. Now which side would this be on? That's okay. And then also image adjustments, and do a let's just do with the hue saturation, and I can bring this color lightness. No, that's not working too well. Image adjustments, let's try brightness and contrast. I'm going to click the use legacy on. And I'm just trying to match it. It's starting to get close. I don't know. That's good. And what I'll do is, this seems like a more of a straight kind of line going down the seam, so I'll just run it down this one, and just bring it as close to the edge as possible. Press enter, and then I'm just going to duplicate this one a few times and start to run it down the rest of the seam. And you can always do an edit if you want to get this just right. Oh, not free transform. Run a warp. And start to match it. as close as you can. And in this case, I'll just duplicate the original again. And bring this down over here. And no one's going to see it past this point, really. So once I get to that point, I'll be pretty good. And then I'll run that warp tool again. Now warping it does distort the texture. Like I said, I'm not too concerned about it. And something like that. And then over here, because I know I'm not going to see it anyway, just to make it easier, I'm just going to drag it off. And that, press enter. And once more, grab the original, run this right up the seam. And edit, transform warp. And maybe actually, in this case, I'm just going to erase this part. And move this part like so. No one will really see this section either too much, so I'm not too concerned about it. And once more, to here. Alright, just kind of filled that in, and I'm going to just go ahead and show you what it did. And before I do that, turn off my UV layer, save as, TGA, save, yes, okay, and reload. And you'll see I have a jean seam running right up the side of my leg. It doesn't match the color too great, so that's something I'd want to take into consideration. In here, I know all these layer copies are basically the same. I'm going to keep this original one here. Actually, duplicate it, and I'm going to hide the original now. And these, I'm just going to press Control E. I'm going to highlight those to Control E, and that's just the entire seam. And image, adjustments, let's see, maybe hue saturation this time might work a little bit better. Colorize, let's try that. Oop. Whoa. I can't tell if it's actually, need to zoom in a little bit. That seems a little bit better. I'll try that one more time. Save as. Save. Yes. Okay. And then back in here. Reload. And I'm just trying to show you. And then I got that weird sort of... no one's really going to notice it anyway, so don't worry too much about it. Again, with the front part of the pants, and I can do this for also this seam here. I can run that on the outside as well, in which case that's getting into some more of the details, but I'll get into the back pocket now. Which would be in this region. Let's see. And I might have that trying to figure out which layer that's on. MCC logo is good. Arm paint. Make sure I didn't grab... Oh. Jeans layout. There we go. Let's grab that and pull that out of there. Okay. Alright, so on this layer, I can also... I'm going to grab these and bring them up higher because I'm working on them at the moment. Turn on my UV layout. Grab my stamp tool, my clone stamp, and fill this part in. Alright. So I know this is the front and these are the back. So what I'm going to do with that is I have a back pocket here, and I'm simply going to use this tool, and I'm just going to draw all the way around it. Control C. And Control V. And then I'm just going to rotate and scale into place. Hoping this color is close enough. Not so much. I'll have to adjust it a little bit. And I don't know exactly how big the back pocket is, in which case here I want to match the color a little bit. Adjustments, hue, saturation, colorize, and let's bring this... I think that's pretty close. We'll go ahead and click OK. It's close enough. And then save it. TGA, save, save. And I'm just checking it on my mesh to see what it looks like in Maya and the position of it. And I want to bring it a little further left. And then I also do want to match the color slightly more, but it's a good start. And bring this up. And maybe image, adjustments, let's try brightness. I'm going to use legacy. And nope. Just messing with the contrast to see if I can sort of get a happy medium with the blend on it. And then I'll just do again. And I'm really just checking the placement on it. I'll save it as the Photoshop file also while I'm at it. And save it also as a TGA. Really back and forth process. Reload. And I want to bring it probably a little bit lower. Control T. I'm just going to bring it down to about there. Also going to zoom in on it. And maybe if I give it a subtle transparency, it might match a little bit better. And also, if I add a layer mask and bring my brush size down even smaller, it won't be as noticeable if I kind of clean up the just outside of that seam of the jean pocket. It might help a little bit. Now this is getting really tedious, by the way. I know this is sort of just like this repetitive kind of process. If I go to these two jean colors, I'm going to duplicate them and merge them really quickly, and then I'll hide the originals. What I may be able to do also is match them a little bit here too and see what happens, and then save as TGA. Yes. And I'm just trying to show you that you can match these things pretty well in Photoshop. And reload. Now it does match better. The pocket may even need to be a little slightly bigger or so, but that's a pretty good start to it. I'll go ahead and in my Photoshop file, the back pocket one, and let's see, where did I want to shift it to? Okay, maybe slightly more inward and lower, I think. That'll work, something like that. Maybe a little bit up. And what I'm using is actually these UV lines. I'm going to duplicate this one and edit, transform, flip vertical. I'm holding spacebar to scroll through, and I have it lined up just about here, give or take. TGA, save, yes, okay, Maya, reload. And I have them slightly outward more, so maybe I want to bring them a little bit more inward. They seem a little off. Maybe into this way. Maybe to there. And on this one, to here. Oop. Yes. Okay. Reload. And I'm pleased with that position. That'll do. Alright. Now going back into Photoshop, and this is getting really into detail with our texturing. I could run a seam, and I have that seam on this layer. I'm going to duplicate this one, bring this up to the back pocket region. I'm going to zoom out, and there we go. Run this down one of the seams. Actually, before I do that, bring this down. Hope I didn't delete any layers I didn't want to. Hide this layer. I had that seam going down here. I don't know what happened to it. I might have, hopefully didn't accidentally delete it. I didn't name my layer, I know that for sure, so it is always that possibility. But I believe it's because, there we go, I had my other layers hovering over. Alright, so Now with this seam, I did adjust it so it doesn't match as well as it did. I'll just adjust the brightness a little bit. Maybe if I use Legacy, I don't know, that'll work. Now with this one, duplicate. This is seam original. Seams. Gene seam 1. I'm going to create a seam right down the edge, so turn on my UV layout. And running down one side of the jeans, I am simply going to just place this here and then run this one down. Like so. In which case I'm just going to erase it up to this point. I think that's fine. No one's going to really notice except you for that part. And then these two I'm going to merge and call this back jean, back seam. Alright, and adjustments, brightness, legacy, and start to match that color a little bit closer. And I'm trying to show this to you step by step. Going back and forth between Maya to show you. Now I've got that seam running down the back of the pants. Alright. Another thing I want to do is just turn this off so I can get a more clear look at what it is doing. Oh, I just saved it as a JPEG. I meant to save it out as a TGA. Yes. Okay. Alrighty. So I got that part going, and then that covers that section of creating this. Another thing we can do is I am simply going to, I'm going to crop this. And Control A, Control C, and go over here. Paste and resize. And I may not even need the entire thing of this. So what I'm going to do is sort of grab a section of the hair and begin to use this to sort of finish the rest of the hair that I have here. And from the projection, the color, this is actually the back of my head. The color, maybe I can find a better spot, maybe not. Oh. Oh, there we go. That's starting to match that color a little bit closer. Give or take, something like that. I'll do a reveal all image, or layer mask reveal all, and sort of give it a soft edge all the way around it so I can sort of blend it in better. And what I'll do is simply start to fill in the hair spots, whichever part looks like it'll be more natural to this. I think that'll be fine. And I'm going to sort of use this part to try to just create some kind of hair texture to this. Rotate it as needed. You're going to see some repetition because I'm doing this pretty quickly, but for the most part it is a pretty good technique, especially just for hair because of something like that. What I can do with the rest of these for the hair, I'm going to merge them all down pressing Control E. Hair 1. I'm going to duplicate it. 2. Oop. And then edit, transform, flip vertical as I did with the face before. Let's see if I can get a somewhat matching section here. And for the rest of it, I'll just use the clone stamp tool. I'll create a larger brush. Holding Alt, I'll just, not the spot healing brush, I'm sorry, the clone stamp brush. Here we go. And then I'm just going to sort of start to, holding Alt, select the section of the hair that I want. And then just kind of color it in. And then I can even just combine all of these and then just sort of fill in whatever is needed. Okay, so this is the hair. This is an original hair reference, so hair reference. And let's go into coloring the face again. This will be the same technique used for the arms. I'm going to simply keep the originals. I'm going to duplicate them, press Control E to merge them, and then hide these because it's just easier to use the clone stamp tool this way. And I'm just going to fill this in as best as I can. Undo that. Oh, and try to keep everything that I possibly can in here. Maybe I try to Get a little bit more of that eyebrow in there. And I'm just using the clone stamp tool to sort of, fill this in the best that I can. Now I'll go back in here and I'm just grabbing skin tone. I obviously need to go in and hide some of this. Oh. Ooh. Hide some of that rubber texture because it's kind of bleeding through. And this is just kind of how I'm maintaining the skin tone in here. Whoop, went a little bit too much. And I'm just constantly clicking back onto, a section of my cheek to paint this area in. As I continue to color in this, and now I need to go back to my shoe. I don't remember what I named it. I believe it's this one. This will be called shoe rubber. And I need to go back onto my layer mask and just include to hide some of that. This might look a little weird, but it's totally fine. TGA, save, okay, and it definitely has some weird coloration in there. I'm also going to save out the, there we go, and reload this. Looks like I have a really weird tan, but it's okay. I also have my hair on there, which is good. In which case, I still need to do the hands, but I think you should be able to figure it out from this point on. You could find some reference of hands and just go ahead and put it on. Really, anything you'd like to do. And then also we need to texture the eyes. So we'll get to that. I'll do one more video on texturing the eyes, the arms, and the hands, and the fingernails, I guess. So I'll include that in the next video, and thanks for watching, and we will push forward with completing the texture in the following video, and then you can always also do whatever touch-ups you need, like in this region, and yeah. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.